Welcome everyone to Already Cancelled. I am Peter, that is Tara, and we are going to talk about the Twilight Zone Season 4 Episode 2. It is called the 30-Fathom Grave. So full spoilers for the episode. The premise of this one is that a ship travelling somewhere... I was going to say in the ocean, but that's obviously it's in the ocean. Where else would it be travelling?
I think they said the Pacific.
Okay, sure. Okay, we have one of the major oceans. Okay, we know which one. It's in the Pacific. But they hear a banging. I assumed it was going to end up being Morse code. It never turned out to be Morse code, funnily enough. But there was banging coming from below, and they very quickly realise that there's probably a submarine down there, and there's some mystery as to who the submarine is, where it came from, why it's down there. And there's some sort of supernatural elements that start to creep in as well over the course of the episode, particularly with the chief. Was it Bozeman? Was that his rank?
Boatsman.
Okay. Yeah, he's acting a bit weird, and he's like freaking out when he hears the noise. But that I'll save that there, and we'll get into the plot a bit more as we go. Can I just like before we get into general thoughts of the plot and like, you know, does it work, does it not, all that, the usual, is it any good? I actually want to make a weird critique that really bugged me about this episode, is that
I have one too.
I don't, so they hear this banging over their like devices, right, their whatever, the sonar, whatever, and I'm like, yeah, okay, fair enough, right? But then the ship like stops over the top of where this submarine is, and they can all hear this banging on the ship, and no one acts like this is weird. It's... How far underwater is this? There is no way you would hear this.
30 fathoms.
Okay,
well, I mean, you can actually hear quite a bit, something like that in the ocean. Because if you're under the water line inside the hull, like the sound will hit off the hull.
Ah, but they hear it up in the deck though. Like they're up.
Yeah, they do. They hear it up in the like flight deck or past, like in the. Yeah. Yeah,
they're up
on the bridge
and it's like someone's hitting a hammer out, like right outside the door. Like it's like clear as day. I'm like,
I have a critique as somebody who has lived on a ship, a naval vessel for 3 years. Everybody at all times should be going like this. They should be swaying. The ship's rocking. This is how you live for when you're on a ship. Your life is like this all the time.
I mean, that's a lot of effort for all these actors to put in, for all, especially since don't they all have to match?
Yeah,
because they can't be out of sync, right? They can't. Half of them can't be going one way.
I understand, it's a big ask. But I always, as soon as a new scene starts, I'm like, they're still not swaying.
This is why, to do it convincingly, you actually have to like build a set that's on a bit of a, you know, it's not a slight rocker, just so you can slightly tilt them.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's fair. That's fair. I think we both had valid, like, just real practical flaws with the internal logic of this world.
Yes.
But that aside, what did you make of the 30-fathom grave?
I liked it, actually. I thought it was legitimately spooky, and it is definitely a slow burn. I really like the character of the captain. He really reminded me of Shatner. There's some good Shatnerisms coming off of this guy. Made me like him. I did see in the trivia that someone compared it to Carnival of Souls, and I actually kind of agree with that. It's kind of a Carnival of Souls on the ocean.
Yeah. I did not like this episode. I thought this was much weaker than the last one. I think for me, where the mystery goes and what the submarine is like was far less interesting to me. And further, I actually quite like Carnival of Souls as a movie. I think that's a really good film. But I think this episode, everything with the chief boatsman, I thought was like uninteresting, plodding. I didn't really like his character. I didn't like the mystery. I thought any of the revelations that came up about how he's connected to the submarine, just...
You didn't like his story? I thought it was pretty compelling.
I don't know. No, it all fell flat for me. I didn't get anything out of it. I was here for, we're investigating this submarine that's making some noises that shouldn't be here and has been here for since World War II. You know, it's a 20-year-old sub. I was all into, let's go down the deep sea diving suit, let's explore, let's like uncover some mystery. So as soon as they started like teasing that there was more like survivor's guilt and there's like ghosts coming up to like haunt this guy, I lost interest. I was not interested at all in this ghostly nonsense. Like, that's not what I wanted from this. It just wasn't.
I don't know. I like the survivor's guilt thing because people with PTSD really do experience that. Like, that's like, I like the connection, and plus they purposely bring it up. Like, war is something that doesn't just end. You take it with you everywhere. And I mean, these guys look like they were okay, but like, like they hadn't really seen a lot of action, especially the younger ones. But I don't know. Like, I like the storyline a lot in the mystery, and I thought the chief bosun's mate, like I could say like, yeah, he's about 50-50. Like, sometimes I think he's really good, and sometimes I think his acting is a little bit like try hard. There's some moments where he just, like, you could tell he's improvising and like trying to draw something out, but I didn't really care for that very much. But then, like, when he was telling the story, I was really compelled by him.
It wasn't the avenue that I felt the episode was going to take. So when it did, I wasn't super into it, and I don't think that necessarily is just a problem with the expectations, though. I think if the story was well executed, it would pull me into what it was doing, and I don't think it ever did. Like, the more it veered into he's starting to see ghosts appear on the ship, I was just kind of like, oh, okay, I guess we're just doing this, and it made everything a little bit less interesting to me, and I didn't really think much of the ending. I didn't think it didn't give me, like, because last episode I was really impressed with how much I was rooting for the main character and how much I got invested into what the overall story was doing. This one I definitely felt a lot more, I don't want to say padding necessarily, but I definitely didn't feel this used its time to the same extent that the first one did, which is a shame. Because I was thinking this was going to be kind of like a, I don't know, I think Final Countdown a little bit, I guess, but with like more of a, like, they find something from the past kind of mystery. I don't know if I was assuming that the submarine had traveled like 20 years into the future, into present day, and like that's why there was people still alive down there. And there's a weird hint actually, because there's a lot of talk, right? If there's someone alive down there, right? If it's not just like some piece of equipment that's somehow rocking back and forth, then like, how are they still alive? Like, that doesn't make any sense. It's been 20 years. And obviously with all the supernatural stuff going on in the Survivor's Guild, you kind of get the impression that, well, they can't be. This is all just supernatural nonsense. But there's a hint at the end, though, once they actually sort of break their way into the submarine with the crew, and we get like the horrified look at the guy who goes in to like check it out. Which, by the way, did you think it was weird that they went into the submarine in what was basically a t-shirt and like just whatever they would wear on the ship? They weren't in like any sort of diving gear.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I thought
was a bit odd.
Maybe they had raised the sub because they were waiting on ships and other equipment to show up for a rescue mission.
They didn't show any exterior shot of that submarine being like lifted out of the water or like on the surface of the water.
No, but I think they did say that that's what they were waiting on.
Yeah, because that felt really weird. Because every other time we see the diver go down, and I do love that it's the classic, big metal helmet, deep sea diving suit. I love that visual of that old diving suit. But
it's so great. Yeah, it's such a good look. I mean, so terrifying to be in, I'm sure. Like, and he had to go down there like 4 times, and each time he's like getting a little bit more spooked about the whole thing.
The captain's like, all right, I need to go back down there, so have a quick coffee, but get back down in the water.
Yeah, warm yourself up with a cup of coffee, and you're going back in. You can tell.
Sorry.
Okay. Aye.
And it's always the same guy because he's the only one on the entire ship that's qualified for deep sea diving, which you would think a ship would have just a couple of certified divers.
Yes, my ship definitely had more than one, but also maybe this equipment you can only do one person.
Maybe, yeah. It's a we are in the 60s here, so the tech, which by the way, on the tech being either accurate or good enough or not good enough. I did think when they were actually like talking to the diver when he's at the bottom of the ocean bed, I thought, the audio quality of this call between them was quite high quality for 1963 deep sea diving.
1963 Navy, United States Navy.
It sounded as clear as this call is now.
It's true.
Like, to put a filter on it. Put a filter so it sounds a little, phone call-y, maybe. At least.
Maybe, yeah.
It's kind of like if you go back and watch Cellular, which is a decent little action thriller starring Chris Evans from 2004, where like Kim Basinger's like trapped in a attic and her son's like being targeted by these bad guys, and she can only call one number because her phone's broken. It ends up in this random Chris Evans character. But anyway, the reason why I brought it up is, as I said early on, because this is 2004, it's the height of the Nokia phone, right? And one of the new features at the time in 2004 is that some of their phones claim to have video calling, right? And he uses it in the movie, and it's clear product placement. And they've just cut out the footage they've shot of the person and stuck it onto the phone, so it's like perfect HD like video on this little Nokia phone in 2004, which admittedly these days it's actually quite believable that our smartphones can more or less do it, but in 2004 it was pretty laughable. And that's what this kind of thing makes me think of, is stuff like that where they just it's just perfect. This is perfect. There's no...
I'm not sure how you felt about it, but I really loved all the Navy talk. Like, just everybody like repeating the commands back to the person who said it, and then like relaying that to the engine room and getting the messages back. I love the authenticity that it adds to it. Plus, like, I guess it does give me nostalgia in a way. I think I'm always going to like this Navy stuff just a skosh more than you, because I can relate.
It's 50-50. There's definitely, and maybe this is less a critique of the episode and more a critique of the Navy, but there's definitely at points where I got sick of, I don't even know what rank is. It's like the second in command, I think. He like keeps saying very well every time the guy repeats his order back to him, or like sort of returns the order and says, "Oh, it's done now. Like, I've confirmed with the engine room and they've called back up and they're saying it's good and blah." All right, he's like, "Very well then, very well, very well." Like, at what point is this redundant? Just stop saying very well, right?
Everything is like
written
down for you to do.
Get a thesaurus, say acknowledge, say good job, son, say thank you kindly. Just say something else.
I started using acknowledge for work, because like we'll get like these group texts from the people in the company, and you're supposed to just acknowledge that you've read it. And so most people say like the same thing, like understood, got it, or whatever. But I like to do acknowledged because it reminds me of the Star Trek computer. Acknowledged.
I'll pull a Terminator. I'll start saying affirmative, which is whenever. Also aliens, actually. It's also
affirmative.
Yeah. Affirmative. Little new. Anyway, the point I was getting at earlier is that when they do go into the submarine, though, like the diver's horrified when he's telling the captain that the bodies were kind of a mess and whatever. However, there was one holding a hammer, implying that the banging was just happening. Now, whether that's because the ghosts were banging or because they're
this like corpse,
or maybe it was like some sort of time displaced thing where they were alive at the time because they did survive the sinking and they died down there. So it's like the echoes of the banging that happened. So, this is kind of how I read it, is that back when they actually originally get sunk, they banged for help, but no one ever came. And now the sound they're hearing now is the haunting of the real. So that's why he's still holding a hammer down there, is because it did happen, but it happened a long time ago.
So is this better than the other underwater haunting that you watched recently?
The Deep House. That's a tough to say. I'd say that had more impressive visuals.
Well, this one like does a lot of implied horror. I mean, there are some moments, you do see the ghosts, and there is a special effect to achieve it, and it looks all right to me. It's
okay. It's some faded people pointing at them and dripping water, dripping water, and you know, and
Water is wetter.
they have a miniature for the submarine, and obviously they've got some small bits they've built for the diver to stand
They've
next
got
to.
like one side of the submarine that he keeps going back to the same one and saying it's a different part. I guess with the submarine, it looks pretty consistent.
Yeah, submarines are pretty dull looking, you know, in terms of like parts. There's not like, other than the top part that sticks out, there's not really much of a visual difference anyway, so whatever. But I mean, hey, the fact that they actually shot some footage underwater is kind of a big deal for Twilight Zone.
Totally, yeah.
They did show the shot of him coming in and out of the water like 3 or 4 times though, so they were really milking that. It's like, no, we got a shot of him being lowered out of the water and raised back up. We're going to use it multiple times.
Man, I love those diving suits.
Oh, they're great. They're great for horror stories because they just look so creepy and like, you know, clunky.
Yeah,
it's great. I don't know when like the world moved on from them, but clearly they were still in use in the 60s.
Yeah, good use for good news for the divers out there.
Yes,
but bad for us.
Diving suits got obviously a lot sleeker, a lot more practical, and I imagine a lot safer, and you know.
Yeah, they're also good for horror movies because sometimes that window you get a nice view of the person inside, and also like you can see their flaws in it so well. Like they have to stay upright. They can't like so you know it's scarier. They can, if they move the wrong way, their helmet might fill up with water or something. I don't know how it works, but they always have to be upright, I'm pretty sure.
I'd never really given it much thought, to be honest. On the cast, so our 2 main characters are really the captain, who's obviously making a lot of choices. I recognised this dude, and I was like, where do I know him from? I know him actually, he's from the end of Psycho. I think he's the doctor at the end of Psycho, comes in and sort of like diagnoses Norman. So I was like, okay, that's where I know him from, that's cool. And then Chief Bell, who's the boatsman who's like, you know, freaking out and like suddenly spooked by everything that's happening. I was like, you know, I wanted to look him up because his voice and also the way his mouth looked was really giving me Thomas Hayden Church vibes. I'm like,
me too. I was going to say that.
And I was thinking, is this his dad? Is this like Mr. Hayden Church? And it's not, but he was giving me those vibes. But funnily enough, I have seen this actor in 2 different things that came much later. He is in both God Told Me To as a police officer, and he is the camp runner in Sleepaway Camp.
Okay.
And I'm like, oh yeah, I do recognize him. I recognize him as an old man in that movie.
I haven't seen Sleepaway Camp. I have seen God Told Me To, obviously.
Of course you have, yeah. Sleepaway Camp, he's he's this old man who's always smoking a cigar, and he's trying to keep his camp going despite the fact that kids are being murdered left and right.
Did you like that the doctor was smoking in this also? I did think the doctor was a little handsy. Like he almost treated his patient like it was a romantic interest.
Maybe it was.
I mean, there is the Navy, you know. There's a stereotype.
They get lonely out at sea.
Yeah. That's why they started letting the ladies in. The doctor's kind of whatever. I guess that's kind of my thing, is that this character who's meant to be the linchpin of what the plot's about, right? This character has got this like survivor's guilt because he blames himself. Like he thinks this one little mistake he made is why his submarine got sunk, and it wasn't. Like they were surrounded. They were screwed anyway. And he escaped. He survived, but you know, he spends most of the episode in the med bay. Just like on a bed and looking at a mirror and freaking out. Like he doesn't actually interact with a lot of people. He doesn't do a lot of things. You know, when the diver finds his dog tags down there, I thought, oh, this is going to lead to finally some proper like involvement with them. And it just kind of leads to like the captain asking him about his past, and he sort of tells the story, and then that's pretty much it. And then, you know, next time, you know, we see him, the captain has some, you know, good dialogue after that too.
Yeah, no, I mean, he does make a nice speech about, you know, war sticking with you and like how it's not his fault. You know, he does actually, he's a captain who does seem to care about his men, which is nice. But at this point, though, like the episode was like, okay, this is what this episode is, and I was just disappointed that this was what it was. I was like, I wanted more of the mystery. I wanted more tangible things to be going on. Instead, we have this character who is just freaking out at the noise constantly, and eventually there's like a reason sort of given, and we get context for it. But it takes up quite a number of the episodes. So and it's just, I don't know. I wasn't into that stuff.
Well, I mean, I like the storyline. I think it's better than the other war ones that we've gotten, and also I like the message a little bit better than the other war ones that we've gotten. I mean, we've gotten a lot of the the person who was responsible for people dying, but they're like the enemy, in the other person's shoes. There's a lot of that going on. This one is the first one where it's just like, this is a really innocent person who, is just, he's kind of like the character in the Babylon 5 episode where he thinks that, he's the one who brings the bad luck, and that's why all the stations have disappeared or blown up previously. He's just like, or like the kid who, thinks he's the reason that their parents are divorced or something, and just holds on to that for a long time. It's just it's a different, perspective than we've had in this show before, especially around war stories. Yeah,
I feel like the messages are almost always pretty good, I'd say, with the war episodes. But yeah, very few of them, if any, have had like standout execution where they kind of stand up as one of the better episodes. And maybe the ones that do are just sort of tangentially war related, as opposed to directly war related. So I'm thinking like the one with the Nazi who like walks around the concentration camp, like that's related to war, but it's not specifically part of the war. It's more,
that one's a decent one. And I did like the Civil War one with the lady in the house who refuses to leave the house.
Yeah, again, okay. I wasn't in love with that episode, but yeah. But yeah, the messages tend to be good. There tends to be a nice, well-intentioned idea behind them. But I guess I was just coming into this expecting more science fiction, and instead I got like mild horror guilt instead, and it just wasn't what I wanted from it at all.
Twilight Zone isn't always science fiction.
It's not, but they gave me a sizzle reel last week. They got me hyped.
That's true.
They got me hyped for
we got
for
another
the mystery
one this week too.
We did. We'll get to that in a second, but they got me hyped, and they I think they set me up too much. They painted me in one direction, and now I'm like disappointed. I mean, I don't think it's a terrible episode. I don't think it's like unbearable. I do think it's a bit slow in places. I do think that unlike last episode, it does feel a little bit more. And I'm not saying it should have been only 25 minutes. I'm not saying that, because I think what I don't want anyone to think as we're going through this season, that anytime I say it feels a little padded, I'm saying, it should be half as long. I'm not saying that, but I'm just saying I feel a bit of padding. Like, there's a difference. There's a middle ground between them. So, yeah. So, okay. It was okay, but I was disappointed. But, hey-ho. I'm glad you liked it more than I did.
Good.
I'm glad too. Yeah, so there you go. That's the 30-Fathom grave. So yeah, we did get some tease at the end. Rod came on screen, and it cut to a sizzle reel as he was still talking. It's called Valley of the Shadow. Here's the description on IMDb. A reporter stumbles into a peaceful town where miracles seem to occur due to technology, and the townsfolk won't let him leave. What we see in the sizzle reel, seems to... It was mostly just one part where like a table of like 3 or 4 heads of the town are saying that he can't leave, and he's like demanding to like understand why.
Yeah, one of those heads look familiar.
Oh, I'm sure they are. I mean, I just noticed a name that's in the next episide. I don't think he was in this clip.
What is it?
James Doohan is in the next episode.
Oh, I don't think I saw him.
No, I don't think he was in that in the clips.
But we're getting Scotty?
Yes, Scotty is in the next Twilight Zone. That's right. You've had Shatner. You've had Kirk. We're going to get him again, actually.
You've had Spock.
You've had Spock. That's right. Now you're getting...
And did we have George Takei?
I don't think so. I don't remember George
Oh,
Takei.
he's in a later season.
Okay.
I know he's in Twilight Zone.
Okay, well, yeah, fair enough. If he's going to show up later, he's going to show up later. But, yeah. I will say, I did think the clips of this one, the sizzle reel, I think it did a good job of really not giving away much, because I didn't really feel like I got the plot. I just got,
Right.
like, a sense of, like, weirdness to it, which is good. Like, you know, I'm all for a bit of weirdness in my Twilight Zone episode. So, I'm intrigued to see what this one actually is. But, yeah, so... but Rod was hyping it up. He was, you know, giving Charles Beaumont the rub, as he often does. And, yeah, we'll see how it is. We never mentioned last episode the new intro.
Intro.
Yeah, it's a completely new version, which is probably the one that the modern version probably takes the most inspiration from. Just in the way Rod says his opening thing now.
Yeah. There's a lot of like toys and stuff that fly through space in this one.
Like, open the door, next up, the Twilight Zone kind of thing. Like,
Right,
there's a lot of that going on. So, there you go. That is episode 2 of season 4. Let us know what you think of this one in the comments below. You can like, subscribe, ding the bell for notifications, all that stuff. It helps us out a lot. Tara, why don't you tell everyone about where they can go inside the Twilight Zone to support their favorite YouTubers?
That's right, Peter. If you enjoy our Patreon, if you enjoy our reviews, please check out our Patreon page. It's patreon.com/MildFuzzTV. And if you donate as low as $1 per month, you'll get access to bonus episodes of other shows we do. And if you donate $5 per month, you'll get access to these Twilight Zone reviews 1 week early. Thank you.
Yes, quite right. Thank you very much. That was beautiful.
I know.
So that
it felt right when I said it.
Thank you once again for watching or listening. We always appreciate it. Keep watching TV in the Twilight Zone.